To start this off with Dual Cast, Maim and Mend, and Maim and Mend 2, you'll see that nothing really has changed with these traits. But going further, this is where we're going to start to see some significant updates. Our first real adjustment comes with Enhanced Jolt. This is where you're going to see still Jolt going from 1 to 2, but a potency decrease for Ver Thunder and Ver Arrow by 10, going from 370 to 360, and Ver Fire, Ver Stone going from 310 to 300. Scatter Mastery still upgrades Scatter to Impact at level 66, and our first real new trait that we see for Redmage is Mana Stack. This is going to add this to your balance gauge, and whether you land Riposte, Zerushu, Enchanted Redoublement, or Moulinet, you're going to get a maximum up to 3 stack crystals. Now, upon gaining 3 mana stacks, Ver Thunder 2 are upgraded to Ver Flare and Ver Arrow 2, and are upgraded to Ver Holy, meaning whether your single target or your AoE target, all those upgrade into AoE abilities, which is fantastic. So you don't have to feel like you're going to sacrifice an AoE pool on a Redmage anymore, and it just feels like an excellent extension. I cannot praise this enough. Feels great on a controller, by the way. It just naturally works and fits, and I cannot wait for you to go hands-on with it. Now, a big change is actually coming from Enhanced Contra 6. This is no more. What you actually see here, and you can see it slightly in the icon itself, is that has now become a tree of Red Magic Mastery. So while it's still the first one actually learned at level 74 as opposed to 78, is going to reduce Contra 6 time to 35 seconds and increase the potency of Ver Thunder and Ver Arrow to 120, that still stays the same minus the level adjustment. We do see additional stacks of this. So Red Magic Mastery 2 learned at level 82 is going to upgrade Ver Thunder to Ver Thunder 3, Ver Arrow to Ver Arrow 3, and upon gaining 3 mana stacks, Ver Thunder 3 is upgraded to Ver Flare, and Ver Arrow 3 is upgraded to Ver Holy. That's going to take place at level 82. Red Magic Mastery 3 is going to increase the potency of Ver Thunder 2 and Ver Arrow 2 and Ver Fire and Ver Stone to all all across the board. So you're seeing 140 potency to both those spells, 330 for Ver Fire and Ver Stone, and Jolt 2 is going to get a boost to 310, and Impact is going to be 210, and Enchanted Reprise is going to be 330. So you see that nice stack and tree with Red Magic Mastery. Now, Enhanced Modification is, you're seeing this now actually learned a little bit later, where it used to be level 74, it is now 78, but it still stays the same. However, there is an Enhanced Magnification 2, in which that increases the maximum stacks of magnification up to 6 learned at level 90. So you can see that adjustment here. And then also you have Enhanced Acceleration. Now this is a new trait. This allows you to accumulate charges for consecutive uses of acceleration with a maximum charges of 2, learned at level 88. And then you have Enhanced Displacement. You can see here it has a potency decrease from 200 to 150, and this is still learned at level 72. So now let's go ahead and move into the skills, spells, and more for the Red Mage and cover what has changed from Shadowbringers to Endwalker. We're going to start with Riposte, learned at level 1. That is still the same and delivers a potency of 130 across the board. What you do see here is both black and white mana actually have a reduction cost going from 30, where it could be activated, to now 20. So once you get 20 or more, you can actually use Enhanced Riposte. Then you can see Jolt. This is now still learned at level 2, but it's got a potency reduction going from 180 to 170. The additional effect is going to increase both black mana and white mana by 2, where in Shadowbringers it actually increased them by 3. Ver Thunder coming in here with a 10 potency reduction. It increases your black mana by 6, and it has a 50% chance of becoming Ver Fire ready, and that can last for 30 seconds. The percentage chance has not changed, but the black mana has been reduced from 11 to 6. So there is a slower filling of the bar, but there's also a slower consuming of the bar as well. So you're going to feel that pretty consistently across the board. You can see here with Corp de Corps, it rushes the target and delivers an attack with a potency of 100. This is a 30-point reduction, but Corp de Corps is going to end up having a maximum of 2 charges, and that's still learned at level 6. So that's a very handy charged ability now, as opposed to kind of a one-off attack. You'll see Ver Arrow here having a 10-point reduction and a reduction of white mana accumulation to 6. Still has that 50% charge of becoming Ver Stone across the board. Scatter is going to see its potency remain the same, but and the same thing with the black mana and white mana is going to remain the same at accumulating at 3 across the board. For Thunder 2 is going to see a potency increase of 120 to 140, so a 20-point increase, and maintain the same black mana increase across the board. For Arrow 2, you see that same potency boost going from 120 to 140, and it's going to have that white mana stay the same at an increase of 7 points, still learned at level 22. For Stone, you're going to see it actually has a potency increase. This is obviously helping with the traits involved, but going from 310 to 330, and a reduction in how much mana it accumulates from 9 to 5. And it can only be executed when you're in Verstone ready as a part of your Red Mage rotation. A Verfire is going to see that potency increase of 20 in a black magic mana like accumulation going from 9 to 5. Same concept, and learned with Verfire ready. And then Zerbashu is going to deliver an attack with a potency of 100. And if you have that combo potency going from Riposte, it's still 150. And the action is upgraded when both black mana and white mana are above 15 or more. And so you see it used to cost 25, but now it only costs 15. Displacement has a potency reduction of 50. It still is that 15 young backstep, but it actually has a maximum of 2 charges, just like with Corp to Core. So you can have more in and out movement with the Red Mage. This goes really hand in hand with how the bar is filled up and how the bar is then expended. And I think it actually works out really well for the design of the Red Mage, and it feels just natural. Now, Fletch in this case, or Flesh, has a potency reduction of 20, and it's still learned at level 45. And then you can see engagement here it keeps the same potency, and it currently shares that recast timer with displacement, but just like Corp to Core and just like displacement, and has a maximum of 2 charges. And you'll see here from a leveling perspective, engagement used to be learned at 72. It is now learned at level 40, which goes in hand with displacement. So that's going to be something you'll have as an option for you as a new Red Mage. Redoublement is same potency across the board. Combo action still going to be Zerbashu, and that has a potency of 230 as well. And the action upgrades if both black mana and white mana are 15 or more, where before it was set to 25 or more and still set at level 50. Acceleration is now going to get a charge ability, so it's going to have a maximum of 2 charges. And you can see here it ensures that the next 3 casts of Ver Thunder or Ver Flare or Ver Arrow or Ver Holy will, for their first hits, trigger Ver Fire ready or Ver Stone ready, respectively. So you're going to have way more control over how you get your Ver Fires and your Ver Stones ready to go. Moulinet delivers an attack with a potency of 60 for all enemies in a cone before you. It can only be executed in this case with enhanced Moulinet if both black mana and white mana are 20. So no changes have happened there, but Moulinet will actually contribute to building up your AO rotation. So you can do Moulinet and still do Ver Holy or Ver Flare respectively. Ver Cure remains the exact same at level 54. Contra 6 delivers an attack with a potency of 380 as opposed to 400, so a 20-point reduction in its potency, and still learned at level 56. Then you have Embolden. This is going to increase the magic damage dealt by 10% and damage dealt to nearby party members by 10%. Both effects are reduced by 20% every 4 seconds, so no changes across the board with Embolden. Manification is going to see a couple of adjustments here. Both, it now increases the black mana and white mana by 50. It recovers 1 charge for Corp to Core, displacement, and engagement. And an additional effect, it grants 6 stacks of Manification, and the Manification effect is going to increase magic damage dealt by 5% for 15 seconds. All combos are canceled upon the execution of Manification, and it can only be executed while in combat. Jolt 2, looking across the board, getting a potency increase going from 290 to 310. This is going to have you still increase both black and white mana by 2, where before it was 3 in this case. For Raise, still level 64 and still functioning the same way. You will see some stat differences because of like potency and just your stat increases. So right now, if you were going to hard cast for Raise, looks like it's saving you now 0.3 seconds, but that's not really how you're going to use for Raise. You shouldn't be hard casting for Raise as a Red Mage. I think they make it just that long so you feel like you need to go and cast Cure real quick. Impact is now have a potency of 210. This is a reduction by 10 from 220, and it's going to accumulate black and white mana by 3 points, which is the same, and it's still learned at level 66. Reprise has keeps its potency of 100, and the additional action granted, Enhanced Reprise, is both from black white mana and white mana is equal to 5 or more. Now, here's where we're going to get into some upgraded spells that don't have a counterpart in Shadowbringers. So you get Ver Thunder 3. This is going to deal lightning damage with a potency of 380, increases your black mana by 6, and has a 50% chance of becoming Ver Thunder or Ver Fire ready. Then you have Ver Arrow 3. This deals wind aspected damage with a potency of 380, increases black and white mana, or increases white mana by 6, and additional effect is going to be 50% chance of becoming Ver Stone ready, and those are learned at level 82. You have Magic Barrier. This is going to reduce magic damage taken by self and nearby party members by 10%, while increasing HP recovered by healing actions by 5% with a 10-second duration, learned at level 86 with a 120-second recast. So every 2 minutes you can be popping Magic Barrier, which is just going to enhance the overall flow of battle and kind of take a little pressure off of you or your healers, depending on what is going on in the fight itself. Now we get into our enhanced versions of our abilities with Enhanced Riposte, with the potency remaining the same at 220, but you're going to see here the black mana and white mana reduction in cost going from 30 to 20, so it's going to burn down that gauge a little bit slower. It's also going to give you that mana stack, which you need 3 of those to be Verholing and Verflaring in this case. Enhanced Zurashu keeps the same potency. It's going to still combo off of the previous abilities and maintaining that 290. It's going to grant you that mana stack, and instead of costing 25, it's only going to cost you 15. Enhanced Redoublement, it's going to maintain the same potencies across the board, but it's going to reduce its cost to 15, and all those again still bringing you those mana stacks. Here you can see with Moulinet, it's got a potency reduction going from 200 to 130. It's still going to get you that mana stack, so you can actually AoE rotation and build up your mana stacks, and I really appreciate that about the flow. It still costs 20 mana across the board, black and white, to be able to execute that. Now as we get into Verflare, we can see here the new Verflare is going to deal fire damage to the target, all nearby enemies to it, with a potency of 580 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. And this is a 20-point reduction, but it's still going to do AoE damage, in this case at a 60% cost to that AoE, which is great because it was not an AoE before. So there you go. You're getting a little bit extra, kind of offset by that 20-point potency. The combo action is going to be Enhanced Redoublement, and the additional effect here is it's going to increase your black mana by 11, has a 20% chance of becoming Verfire ready, and that can last for 30 seconds, and has a chance to become Verfire ready, increases to 100% if white mana is higher than black mana at the time of execution. Isn't that fascinating? I tell you, it's so cool to see. It's going to cost you a stack of 3 of your new mana stack system. So just slight potency adjustments, but overall across the board, Verflare getting more interesting, in my opinion. Verholy, same concept. You see a potency reduction of 20, but it is now also an AoE ability with 60% less for all remaining enemies. Enhanced Redoublement's what's going to trick this up. Increases your white mana by 11 and has a 20% chance of becoming Verstone ready, where that increases to 100% if your black mana is higher than your white mana at the time. It's going to cost you 3. Enhanced Reprise is going to deal unexpected damage of 330, which is a 30 potency increase, and it's going to cost you 5 black mana and 5 white mana. And then you have Scorch. This is going to deal unexpected damage to all targets and enemies nearby it with a potency of 680, with a 20-point reduction from the previous Scorch for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. The combo action here is Verflare or Verholy, and it's going to increase both black mana and white mana by 4. Jolt, 2 impact are actually changed to Scorch upon landing Verflare or Verholy as a combo action. And the newest and final spell that we get is Resolution. This is going to deal unexpected damage to all enemies in a straight line before you, and with a potency of 750 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. And this combos off of Scorch, learned at level 90. So essentially increase both black mana and white mana by 4. Scorch is actually changed to Resolution upon landing Scorch as a combo action. So as a controller player, I can tell you hands down, This is what I love to see. We don't need to sit here and have this one button ability off that I only use occasionally. I like that these abilities, when executed right, you're rewarded with your abilities on your bar upgrading and allowing you to execute those very comfortably, and it feels fantastic. And honestly, at the end of the day, Redmage looks fantastic. Across the board with all the different jobs, their traits have seen a really reworking or rethinking of how they work, and I couldn't be more excited. Take, for example, Black Mage's first trait, Aspect Mastery. This was a later trait that you actually earned later, but what they've done here is they've taken Magic and Mend, they've taken Aspect Mastery, and they've rethought how it works on Black Mage. So if we take a look just at this ability, first, yes, it makes sense that you get your Astral Fire or Umbral Ice stack. In this case, starting off at level 1, you get your 1 stack. That's used to be what Magic and Mend actually function as. But what happens now is that while actually under this effect at level 1, whether you cast your Fire or your Ice, jumping from one to the other, is going to not consume any MP. Where you didn't see this until much later in the game as a Black Mage job. Right now, level 1, you have that baked into the job. This obviously does not apply to Flare still. So starting at level 1, big change. Then you see Maimin Men coming in for the Magic Men, filling in that damage boost. So that's a change right across the board. Aspect Mastery 2 will allow you to have 2 stacks, and then you can kind of just continue to drop down. Now, Aspect Mastery 2 is also kind of taking the place of where Maimin Men was originally earned at level 20, so it's just kind of splitting that out at the same time. Thundercloud has no changes across the board. It's still going to give you that 18 seconds, where it's going to give you that 10% chance that each of your Thunder spells, or whatever Thunder spell on the enemies, is going to have a chance to proc, and it costs no MP and do more damage. Then at level 35, you get Aspect Mastery 3. This allows for the third stacking of Astral Fire or Umbral Ice, and casting Fire 2 or Blizzard 2 will grant maximum stacks of Fire or Ice respectively. Then you see Maimin Men 2 coming in from Magic and Men at level 40, giving you that increased damage and healing restoration. Fire Starter continuing to be awesome and do exactly what it needs to do at level 42, no changes there. Thunder Mastery upgrading Thunder to Thunder 3, and then Thunder Mastery 2 upgrading Thunder 2 to Thunder 4. No changes across the board, levels are remaining the same. Now we see Enochian increasing the base damage dealt by 5% while under the effect, in this case being a trait at level 56, as opposed to a skill, how it worked in Shadowbringer. So that's always on, keeping Fire and Blizzard available to you when you're in the correct aspect. Then you can see Enhanced Umbral Heart is no more. This reduces the MP required to cast Flare because it is no longer needed based off the changes of how the job functions. So I don't think people are going to miss that one all that much. It feels really natural, especially with how Aspect Mastery has changed in that regards. Enhanced Freeze is still going to give you, in this case, it's going to give you 3 Umbral Hearts by casting Freeze, and you get it at level 58 as opposed to level 68 now. So that's kind of a big buff to, especially the earlier game Black Mages out there as they're leveling. Enhanced Enochian has the same effect as it did previously. It's going to grant the effect of Polygon upon maintaining your Enochian for 30 seconds. So in this case, you're not really maintaining Enochian because it is that trait, but making sure that you don't end up having your element, your astrals fall off, or your umbrals fall off accordingly. Enhanced Sharpcast is going to reduce the recast timer to 30 seconds, so nothing has changed about that. You'll see Enhanced Enochian 2, which is going to improve your base damage by 15%, and this is coming in at level 78. Enhanced Polygon is going to give you a second stacking of Polygon at level 80, so that has remained unchanged. Now, as we dive in more, at level 80, you're now going to have Enhanced Foul. This allows for the immediate casting of Foul, has no cast timer. It is an instant cast ability, and it feels great when you're doing that. Aspect Mastery 4 is going to upgrade Fire 2 and Blizzard 2 to High Fire 2 and High Blizzard 2 at level 82. Enhanced Mana Font is going to reduce Mana Font's recast time by 120 seconds. Enhanced Enochian 3 is going to improve Enochian's magic base damage increase to 20% at level 86. Enhanced Sharpcast is going to now turn Sharpcast into a charged action spell at level 88, and this is really, really awesome. I'm very happy to see Sharpcast move into a charged action. And then finally, Aspect Mastery 5. It's going to add a Paradox marker to your elemental gauge. The marker is made active after reaching Astral Fire 3, then swapping to the opposite element, Conversely, the marker can also be made active after reaching Umbral Ice 3 and gaining 3 Umbral Hearts, then swapping to the opposite element. So you get it immediately with Astral Fire 3, you get it with Umbral Ice 3 and 3 Umbral Hearts. So there's that extra caveat there to be able to get that extra Paradox spell, which looks phenomenal. All right, let's break down the changes in spells. Black Mage, not a lot changing with certain spells, so we can go through this pretty quickly for you. Blizzard is remaining the same, no potency changes there. Fire is remaining the same, no potency changes there. Same additional effect, a 40% chance Fire 3 will cost no MP and have no cast time is available. Now the duration on this has increased from 18 seconds to 30 seconds, so a small adjustment there, a needed one in my opinion, so I'm happy to see that come in as an option. Transpose is still doing exactly what it's set to do, and so no changes there. Now Thunder, the only change that really happens across Thunder and the Thunder spells that you'll see right away is the duration of the additional effect, the 10% chance after each tick that the next Thunder spell of any grade is going to add its full damage over time, amount to its initial damage, have no cast time and no MP, is moved up to 21 seconds. It's important to note, if you don't know what I'm talking about, is that when you cast Thunder, if Thundercloud procs on an enemy, you get an instant powerful Thunder spell. Typically Thunder is like putting out a dot, but this just gives you an extra thing that you can do, and using Sharpcast will actually guarantee that. So with 2 stacks of Sharpcast, you could actually have Thunders raining for days on various enemies. It feels really good. Sleep has now actually been moved to a roll action as opposed to a spell only the Black Mage has access to. So note that is a change with Sleep. Blizzard 2, it looks like from the core of it, you have deals ice damage with a potency of 90 to a target and all enemies nearby it. It's got an additional effect. It's going to grant Umbral Ice 3 and remove Astral Fire, and that's going to last for 15 seconds as a part of that countdown, as opposed to just dealing 50 damage to all nearby enemies. So a boost all around with Blizzard 2. Scathe remains unchanged in Endwalker. Fire 2 has a potency increase of 10 in this case, and other than that, it's going to grant your Astral Fire 3 when cast. Thunder 2 has a slight change in its potency, going from 30 to 25, with a duration increase going from 12 to 18 seconds, and then the duration of the additional effect has a 3% after each tick to proc Thunder again is going to last for 21 seconds. So that's the slight adjustment to Thunder 2. In this case, Mana Ward is going to create a barrier that nullifies damage totaling 30% of maximum HP. Still level 30, no changes to Mana Ward there. Fire 3 is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 240. Also, it's going to grant you Astral Fire 3 and removes Umbral Ice. No changes there outside of the fact that Fire 3 is now learned at 35 as opposed to level 34. Ethereal Manipulation allows you to rush to a target member's side. No changes for Ethereal. Mana Font has been reduced from 180 seconds to 120 seconds, and it's still going to restore 30% of your maximum MP as a Black Mage. Blizzard 3 has got no changes across the board, so it is still doing exactly what you expect it to do. Now, Freeze is going to have some slight adjustments here. The ice damage then potency has been increased to 120 from 100, and it's going to grant 3 Umbral Hearts that nullifies Astral Fire's MP cost, thus increasing fire spells and reduces MP cost of Flare by 1/3. And you can only execute this under Umbral Ice. So just know that those minor changes there. Also, Freeze has been moved from level 35 to level 40, so it's been pushed forward a little bit in your leveling path. Thunder 3, potencies are going to remain the same. The duration remains the same. The percentage of the additional effect remains the same. The only thing is the duration of the additional effect has been increased from 18 seconds to 21 seconds, and it's still at level 45. Flare is going to have its potency reduced slightly. Damage deals fire to all enemies nearby it with a potency of 220 for the first enemy and 40% less. So this is a 40-point drop from the 260 of Shadowbringers. But what it does do in terms of its Astral Fire is it's going to give you 3, but it can only be executed while under Astral Fire. So you cannot move from Ice to Flare in this case. Ley Lines, no changes across the board. Still at 90 seconds, still at level 52. Sharpcast is get that charger. You get it as a charged action with the roll, but it's still level 54. Ensures the next Scathe, Fire, Thunder is going to trigger their additional effect accordingly. And so, yeah, that's going to be great for what you need. Enochian has been removed as an ability, and it is now a trait. Blizzard 4 has its potency remain the same. It's still granting you 3 Umbral Hearts, still nullifying Astral Fire, reducing MP cost for Flare by 1/3, and obviously can only be executed under Umbral Ice. Still at level 58. Fire 4, powerful fire spell. It remains, its potency remains unchanged. Obviously, you still need Astral Fire to be on to be able to cast Fire 4, so you can't go from Blizzard to Fire 4. You got to figure that out. You'll get it. It's going to feel natural there. Between the Lines, returning your ley lines to you at level 62 remains unchanged. Thunder 4 has its potency remain the same. Its timing remain the same, but its duration of the additional effect has been increased by from 18 to 21 seconds. Then you see triple cast is still no changes between those as well. Foul, in this case, has its potency reduced, so this is going to deal unexpected damage to a target and all enemies nearby, with the potency of 600 for the first enemy and 50% less for additional remaining enemies. This is a drop from 650 and then 25% less from enemies. So across the board, a kind of a big nerf to Foul, but it is now instant cast with the trait that has been applied to it. Despair is still going to take all your MP, same potency of 330. It's going to grant you Astral Fire 3, and obviously can only be executed under the effect of Astral Fire. Umbral Soul, rocket and rolling here at level 76. It's going to grant you 1 Umbral Ice and an Umbral Heart. It nullifies Astral Fire's MP cost, increasing fire spells, and reduces the MP cost for Flare by 1/3. So you still have access to Umbral Soul. Xenoglossy has its potency reduced from 750 to 700, still costing 1 polygon, still level 80. Now here's where we're going to get into the new spells for the Black Mage. High Fire 2 is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 100 to the target and all enemies nearby it. Additional effect is going to grant you Astral Fire 3, removing Umbral Ice. It's going to last for 15 seconds. Astral Fire bonus is going to grant Enhanced Flare, and that's going to last for 30 seconds with a maximum of 2 charges. Then you've got High Blizzard 2, deals ice damage with a potency of 100 to the target and all enemies nearby it. Additional effect grants Umbral Ice 3 and removes Astral Fire, and that's going to last for 15 seconds, and those are both at level 82. Then at level 86 you get Amplifier. This is going to grant you Polygon. Can only be executed while under the effect of Astral Fire or Umbral Ice. So if you want a free Polygon, there you go. And then at level 90 you get Paradox. Paradox is going to deal unexpected damage with the potency of 510. Astral Fire bonus is going to refresh the duration of Astral Fire and 40% chance to grant Firestarter. Your Firestarter effect, next Fire 3, is going to require no time cast or MP, and that's going to give you a 30% chance there. Umbral Ice bonus is going to require no MP to cast and refreshes the duration of Umbral Ice, can only be executed while under the effect of Paradox. And that is the biggest and most coolest spell that I've seen the Black Mage rock to date. Summoner is a brand new job in Final Fantasy XIV, and many gamers, myself included, wondered how it would really fit in with the story and the world that we've come to know. And I think that Square Enix actually did a masterful job of having it fit with its story and its evolution over time. Now, while making it at the same time a brand new job that feels like it belongs, and at the same time also feels completely new and something that we've long hoped for all this time. The first thing that I noticed and I really enjoyed is actually when summoning, you're going to have charges that each summon is going to stack onto your abilities. This is hugely helpful because it actually allows you to take full advantage of your summons and their augmented abilities. So for example, if there's a phase change or the boss goes to be invulnerable, you're not left wasting any of your summon. It's all going to be functional to you. Now, it is critical to be aware that even though you can sit on your summons charges, you don't want to spend too much time doing that, as your demi summons, Bahamut and Phoenix, are still refreshing and being ready to be summoned themselves and do their part. So summoning them actually refreshes your summons in the first place. So you're going to be bringing in summons all the time, and honestly, at the end of the day, it feels fantastic. Onto the 3 summons themselves. Ifrit is going to get 2 charges, and it ends up having a longer cast time, but it packs a bigger punch. Also at level 90, you're going to get that dash in and smack. It looks really cool. It feels really good to execute. The concerns I have, especially when it comes to Ifrit, is that Well, you're really up close and personal with the boss, which is not necessarily where you want to be as a caster, as somebody who's typically at a range. So having this gap closer, I think, is an important ability, but you want to then consider having at least some form of speed cast, either the swift cast Ruin 3, or you could obviously summon Garuda, or you could summon Titan, so that you actually have all that mobility. And on that note, Titan turns your abilities into instant cast spells. This gives you extreme movement ability, extreme mobility. So if you think about kind of pairing those two together, you could dash in and then you could easily move back out while still casting and not losing any downtime on the summoner. Now, Garuda also gives you that instacast with one of their abilities that gets modified, while the other one does have a cast time, and it feels really good having true identity in your summons themselves. They don't feel like just carbon copy, like red, yellow, green, summons that just kind of pop up. They actually have some level of identity. And I think that's going to play in with the overall function of how the summoner works together in the first place. Ruin, this should be similar. Like this is going to feel very right at home for you right away. This is your level 1 spell. It's going to have a potency of 160. The cast time on it's pretty quick at 1.45 seconds. Now, all of these skills are obviously taken into level 90 jobs. So these are going to be taken into any account of the stats and things like that that have been applied to you. We'll jump into the traits again, like I said, right after that. Summon Carbuncle is going to summon Carbuncle by your side. I mean, that's pretty simple and basic. Learned at level 2. At the gameplay time, Carbuncle just stood there, was not doing any auto attack whatsoever. We do not know if that is the full plan for Carbuncle, but at the time, the only way that they really actually did anything was with their two abilities. The first of which is Radiant Aegis. This is going to have you actually execute this. It's going to create a barrier around yourself that absorbs damage totaling 20% of your maximum HP. And that barrier is going to last 30 seconds. And you do get 2 charges of this. And you can only use this ability when Carbuncle is out. Thus, Bahamut, Phoenix, any of your other summons, this is not going to be available to you while that's happening. So just note there is limitations to using these abilities. Now you still have Physic. This is going to act as your 400 potency cure. Nothing really has changed that much there. Aether Charge. This is really where you're going to start seeing at level 6 the summoner really identifying itself very early. This kind of think of what Dreadworm Trance used to be, and this is essentially the pre-version of that. So Aether Charge grants you Aether Charge, increasing your potency of Ruin and Ruin 2 by 50 and Outburst by 20. Outburst being your AoE spell. It's going to last for 15 seconds, and it's also going to grant you Ruby Arcanium, Topaz Arcanium, and Emerald Arcanium. This is going to be playing into your summoner rotations. And so first we have Summon Ruby. Summon Ruby Carbuncle is going to order it to actually execute Glittering Ruby, and the effect of Glittering Ruby is it's going to rush your target and deal fire damage with a potency of 300. It also is going to grant you 2 additional stacks of Fire Attunement, and your Fire Attunement effect means that Gemshine and Precious Brilliance are going to become fire aspected, and we'll talk more about that here just in a second. This is going to last for 30 seconds as well. It cannot be executed, this Summoning Ruby, while under Earth Attunement or Wind Attunement, and it can only be executed under the effect of Fire Arcanium, and Carbuncle has to be summoned in order for that to function. Also at level 6 you get Gemshine. This is going to be able to allow you to channel the energies of your active elemental attunement into your attack. This is what you see happening on screen, where the summoner's ability becomes augmented. Gemshine evolves into whatever your current summon is based off of your attunement. So obviously Ruby is going to give you fire, and that's going to have you deal fire damage to a single target. Earth Attunement is going to have you deal earth damage to a single target, and Wind Attunement is going to have you deal wind damage to a single target. Also see here where it talks about Gemshine and Precious Brilliance. Precious Brilliance is the AoE version of Gemshine, and you're going to earn that at a later level. Fester. This is now, since there's no dots on the summoner, this is just a 300 potency off the global cooldown. And the reason why you want to continue to Fester, obviously outside the damage itself, but you want to be using those charges, so that way when you refresh them, you're going to get that free Ruin 4 proc down the road with Energy Drain or Siphon. So Energy Drain still exists, deals damage with a potency of 200. It's going to grant you Aether Flow 2, and it also grants you further Ruin, and that's going to last you for 60 seconds. The fact that you only get 1 stack of further Ruin outside of 4 makes further Ruin, or essentially Ruin 4, feel way more impactful into what you're focusing in on as a summoner. Resurrection, which Yoshi P said made it by the skin of its teeth, and Endwalker still exists, allowing you to resurrect a target in a weakened state. Summon Topaz. This is learned actually at level 15. Summons your Topaz Carbuncle and it orders it to execute Glittering Topaz. This is going to have it rush the target and deal earth damage with a potency of 400, and it's going to grant you 4 stacks of Earth Attunement. Earth Attunement's effect is going to affect Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance, and they all become Earth aspected for 30 seconds, and it cannot be executed under Fire Attunement, Wind Attunement, or, and they can only be executed under the effect of Earth Arcanium, and your Carbuncle has to be summoned. You also then learn at level 22, summon Emerald. This is going to obviously allow you to deal wind damage with a potency of 400 with Glittering Emerald in this case. Additional effect is going to be 4 stacks of Wind Attunement, and then again, Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance are going to become wind aspected. Cannot be executed under fire or earth, and can only be executed with wind, and Carbuncle is summoned. Outburst level 26. This is where you're going to get your unaspected damage with a potency of 100 to your target and all enemies nearby it. Here at level 26, you also learned Precious Brilliance. This is going to channel the energies of your active elemental attunement into attack to multiple enemies, dealing fire to a target and all enemies nearby it, dealing earth, and dealing wind damage accordingly. Ruin 2 is going to deal unaspected damage with a potency of 270. You'll notice Ruin 2 no longer is instacast in this case. That is because Ruin 1 will evolve into Ruin 2, which will evolve into Ruin 3, making it also a little bit awkward if you are a scholar, and we'll cover that in my scholar video here on the channel. So just kind of keep it locked here for that. Then at level 30, kind of in the way of now you're unlocking your job, the official summoner, you get Summon Everett. This is going to summon Everett Eggy, and it orders it to execute Inferno. And the effect of that is going to rush forward and deal fire damage to all enemies in a cone with a potency of 600 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. And still, you're going to get your 2 stacks of Fire Attunement. Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance are going to become fire aspected. It's also going to grant you Ifrit's Favor. The effect of Ifrit Favor ends upon execution of a certain summoner action. And we'll cover that here in just a second. And just like before, it's going to have the same requirements regarding Earth, Wind, and Carbuncle being summoned to make sure that it functions. Now, at level 35, you get Summon Titan. This is going to allow you to summon your Titan Eggy and order it to execute Earth and Fury. This is going to rush forward and deal earth damage to all nearby enemies with a potency of 600 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining. You're going to get your 4 stacks of Earth Attunement, affecting Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance, and the same conditions to summon it are in effect. Then at level 40, you're going to get Pain Flare. This is going to deal unaspected damage with a potency of 150 to the target and all enemies nearby it. And then at level 45, you're going to get Summon Garuda. This is going to give you Aerial Blast. This is going to deal damage to target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 600 for the first and 60% less for all remaining enemies. It's going to give you 4 stacks of Wind Attunement, which will impact Gem Shine and Precious Brilliance, and it's also going to grant you Garuda's Favor. All right, then you have Energy Siphon at level 52. Deal unexpected damage with a potency of 100 to the target and all enemies nearby it, granting you Aether Flow 2 and a charge of Further Ruin. Then you have Ruin 3. The evolution is complete now with Ruin 3, dealing unaspected damage with a potency of 310. Honestly, playing it with all the different summons, I didn't really find myself doing a lot of Ruin 3. So at the end of the day, I find it going to be more situational or paired with Swift Cast so that you can have an additional, fast cast whenever you need to get out of dodge. But pay attention, Ruin 3 does still pack a punch. Then you've got Dreadworm Trance. This is where you're going to go into your Dreadworm Trance, and it changes Ruin 3 to Astral Impulse and Outburst to Astral Flare. So you'll see that Ruin itself is upgraded, and thus it changes its impact here. It also is going to grant you Ruby Arcanium, Topaz Arcanium, and Emerald Arcanium. And in the trait section, you'll actually see this is the evolution of Aether Charge. So Aether Charge becomes Dreadworm Trance, and so on and so forth. So that's going to be a key aspect into how the overall job plays. So then we go into Astral Flow. This is going to channel the energies of your active trance or elemental favor to perform one of several actions. Your Dreadworm Trance effect is going to change into Death Flare. Your Firebird Trance effect is going to be Rekindle. Ifrit's Favor effect is going to change to Crimson Cyclone. Titan's Favor is going to change to Mountain Buster, and Garuda's Favor is going to change to Slipstream. Ruin 4 has got a potency here of 430, and it's dealing unexpected damage to a target and all enemies nearby with the first enemy taking the full 430 and 60% less for remaining enemies. And it can only be actually executed under the effect of Further Ruin. You'll notice it's instacast, which is really handy. So this is another one that pair really well with your Ifrit gap closing to have that instacast to be able to kind of get out when needed. Then you have Searing Light. This is learned at level 66. This is going to order your Carbuncle to execute Searing Light, which is going to increase damage dealt by self and nearby party members by 3%. So some nice damage up utility. Obviously, it's still at the 122nd mark here in this case, so you can use this every 2 minutes. Very nice at the end of the day. But again, this is going to only be executable when Carbuncle is out. So any of your Demi Summons or Ifrit, Gruta, and Titan are not going to allow you to execute this. So just kind of be paying attention to your overall rotation, which will probably be feeling around a 2 minute mark as well. Then you've got Summon Bahamut. This is going to be where you enter Dreadworm Trance and it actually summons Demi Bahamut to fight by your side. Demi Bahamut will execute Worm Wave automatically on the targets being attacked by you after summoning, and that's going to last for 20 seconds. You also change Ruin 3 to Astral Impulse and Tri Disaster into Astral Flare. Additional effect is going to grant your Ruby Arcanium, Topaz Arcanium, and your Emerald Arcanium, and it can only be summoned while in combat and Carbuncle is out and summoned. Then you have Enkindle Bahamut. This is going to order Demi Bahamut to execute Akmorn. This is going to deal unexpected damage to the target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 650 for the first enemy and 60% less for all remaining enemies. Then you've got Tri Disaster. Deals unexpected damage with a potency of 120 to all targets and all enemies nearby it. And Tri Disaster is an upgrade from Outburst. So note that this is still an evolution skill now. It is no longer the way that you used to expect it in Shadowbringers. Then you have Summon Ifrit 2. This is going to summon Ruby Ifrit in order to execute Inferno. So when you see Summon Ifrit 2, this is the big version. This is their full version that you get to bring by your side. The fire damage is for the target and all enemies nearby is going to hit with a potency of 700 for the first and 60% less for all remaining enemies. And it's going to grant you 2 stacks of Fire Attunement, thus affecting Gemshine and Precious Brilliance. It's going to also grant Ifrit's Favor, and Ifrit's Favor is going to end upon executing that specific action that we covered here just a little bit ago. Titan as well, in this case, summons Titan 2. It's dealing us a potency of 700 with 60% less fall-ups and getting 4 stacks of Earth Attunement, which affects Gemshine and Precious Brilliance, and the same conditions for it are applied. And then you have Summon Garuda 2. This is going to allow you to summon Garuda with 700 for the first enemy and 60% less for the fall off, granting you 4 stacks of Wind Attunement and also affecting Garuda's Favor upon you. Now, if we go into more of these abilities that upgrade and change, you have Astral Impulse. This is going to deal unexpected damage with a potency of 430, and it can only be executed while in Dreadworm Trance. Instacast, so those summons, those trances, also augment how your summoner plays, thus giving it some movement and a lot of ability there. You have Astral Flare. This is going to deal unexpected damage with a potency of 180 to the target and all enemies nearby. And you have Death Flare. This is going to deal unexpected damage to the target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 500 for the first and 60% less for all remaining enemies. Then you've got Worm Wave. This is what Bahamut's doing. This is can only be deals unexpected damage with a potency of 150 and can only be executed when Demi Bahamut is summoned. You also have Akmorn, deal unexpected damage to the target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 650 for the first, with 60% less for all remaining enemies. Now we get into the right spells. First you have Ruby Right. This is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 430. It's going to cost you 1 point of fire attunement. Then you have Topaz Right. Deals earth damage with a potency of 330, and it's going to grants Titans a favor effect, and it's going to cost you your earth attunement cost as well. This is instant, and then you see Ruby Right is going to have a 2.7 second cast time. Emerald Right is an insta-cast, and it's going to deal wind damage with a potency of 230. So if you notice here, Ifrit's got the biggest hit with 430, then you have Topaz Right with 330, and then finally Garuda with 230. That's how the right spells are functioning. Under Phoenix, you got Fountain of Fire. This is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 430, and it can only be executed while under the effect of Firebird Trance. You still have Brand of Purgatory. This is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 180 to the target, and all enemies nearby can only be executed under the effect of Firebird Trance. Then you also have Summon Phoenix. This is going to where you enter into Firebird Trance and summons your Demi Phoenix to fight by your side. Demi Phoenix is going to execute Scarlet Flame automatically when the targets are attacked by you and after summoning, and it's going to last for 20 seconds. This will change Ruin 3 to Fountain of Fire and Tri Disaster to Brand of Purgatory. It's going to give you the additional effect of refreshing your summons Ruby, Topaz, and Emerald. Then you have Everlasting Flight. This is going to gradually restore your own HP and the HP of all nearby party members for the next 21 seconds. And then you have Rekindle. This is going to restore your own or a target party member's HP. So this is Rekindle is acting as a free 200 potency cure, and the additional effect is Rekindle will actually grant itself kind of a little buff here on the target that's going to last for 30 seconds. That effect being that a healing over time when your HP actually falls below 50% or upon the effect's duration expiration. So the duration is going to last for 30 seconds. If they fall below 50%, you're going to get another cure potency with a 15-second refresh on that. And a nice little, healing over time, ability. Not just for you, but you can also apply Rekindle to another party member. So putting this on the tank in a way is acting like EXO over on the Scholar to a certain degree. And so if they don't fall below 50%, after 30 seconds, it will start healing over time in that regards. You also have Scarlet Flame. This is going to deal fire damage with a potency of 150 with Demi Phoenix. You have also Enkindle Phoenix. It's going to have Phoenix execute Revelation, and the effects here is going to deal fire damage to the target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 650 for the first and 60% less for all remaining enemies. And this is going to replace Enkindle Bahamut while Demi Phoenix is actually summoned. Here's Revelation, deals fire damage to the target and all enemies nearby. So now we get into the catastrophe spells. These are the AoE versions of Precious Brilliance. This is what happens when Precious Brilliance gets aspected. There we go. Got it. Third try into the element. So Ruby Catastrophe is going to be a potency of 180 to the target and all enemies nearby. This does have a cast time for Ruby Catastrophe. Topaz Catastrophe is instant, and it's going to deal 140 potency to the target and all enemies nearby it. It's also going to grant you Titan's Favor, which is going to be important here in a second. Then you have Emerald Catastrophe, deals wind damage with a potency of 100 to the target and all enemies nearby it. It's going to give you one cost. All these function as one cost of your attunement cost. Then you've got Crimson Cyclone. This is going to be where you rush forward and deliver a fire attack with the target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 430 for the first and 65% less for all remaining enemies. This can only be executed when you have Ifrit's Favor on. Crimson Strike is going to deal fire damage to the target and all enemies nearby with a potency of 430 and to the first enemy and 65% less. So this is a combo action ability comboing off of Crimson Cyclone. So you get two big hits right there with Ifrit. Then under Titan, you get Mountain Buster. This is going to deal earth damage to the target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 150 for the first and 70% less for all remaining enemies. And this can only be executed under Titan's Favor. Then you have Slipstream. This is a spell. This is going to have almost a 3-second cast time. So you will fill this with Gruta because you're going to be used to instant, but you're going to find that Slipstream does have a cast time. This deals wind damage to the target and all enemies nearby it with a potency of 430 for the first and 65% for the last. It's going to create a windstorm centering around the target, dealing damage to any enemies who actually enter it with a potency of 30, and that's going to last for 12 seconds and can only be executed under the effect of Gruta's Favor. Radiant Aegis, this is where that barrier spell, this is the pet ability, and Searing Light is that pet ability that's specific, that's going to give you that 3% buff to you and nearby party members. And those are the skills. So now I think it's time that we just naturally roll into the traits so that you can see how these skills evolve over time and at what levels these changes are going to occur. Enhanced Aether Charge grants Ruby Arcanium and Topaz Arcanium upon executing Aether Charge at level 15. Enhanced Aether Charge 2 at level 22 is going to give you Ruby, Topaz, and Emerald. And then Aether Charge Mastery is going to upgrade Aether Charge into Dreadworm Trance at level 58. Now you get Enhanced Dreadworm Trance at level 70, and this is going to take Dreadworm Trance and actually turn it into Summon Bahamut. All right, then from what you've probably come to expect, these really haven't changed much from the originals. Maim and Mend at level 20, it's going to increase your HP and damage base abilities by 10%. And then you have Maim and Mend 2, which is going to increase base action damage of HP restored by 30%, also increases base damage and HP restoration of your pet by 30%. Ruin Mastery, this is going to upgrade Ruin to Ruin 2. Ruin Mastery 2, it takes you from Ruin 2 to Ruin 3. Ruin Mastery 3 is going to enhance Gem Shine according to your current elemental attunement. Thus, essentially, Fire Attunement upgrades to Ruby Right, Earth Attunement upgrades to Topaz Right, and Wind Attunement upgrades to Emerald Right at level 72. And your masteries for Ruin start at level 30 and then at level 54. So at level 54, you'll have Ruin 3, and then from 30 to 54, you'll have Ruin 2. Then we jump into Ruin Mastery 4. This is going to increase the potency of Ruin to 310, Ruby Right to 430, Topaz Right to 330, and Emerald Right to 230. So this then brings us to Outburst Mastery. This is going to upgrade your Outburst to Tri-Disaster at level 74. Outburst Mastery 2 is going to enhance Precious Brilliance according to your current elemental attunement. This is where you get those catastrophe abilities from Ruby, Topaz, and Emerald at level 82. Ruby Summon Mastery is going to upgrade your Ruby Summon to Ifrit, and Topaz Summoning Mastery is going to upgrade your Summon Topaz into Titan, and just accordingly, Emerald is going to upgrade your Emerald into Garuda. Enhanced Summoned Bahamut is going to upgrade Summoned Bahamut into Summoned Phoenix at level 80, and Enhanced Energy Siphon is going to grant further ruin upon executing Energy Drain or Energy Siphon. A Kindle, in this case as a trait, is going to enhance the signature attack of summons, upgrading Ifrit's Burning Strike to Inferno, Titan's Rocks Buster to Earth and Fury, and Garuda's Aerial Slash to Aerial Blast at level 50. Elemental Mastery, it's going to grant Ifrit's favor upon executing Summon Ifrit, Titan's favor upon executing Topaz Right, and Garuda's favor upon executing Summon Garuda. It's going to enhance Astral Flow according to your current elemental favor, which is going to take Ifrit's favor upgrade into Crimson Cyclone, Titan's into Mountain Buster, and Garuda's into Slipstream at level 86. Enhanced Brilliant Eggies is going to allow the accumulation of charges for consecutive uses of Brilliant Eggies with a maximum of 2 charges at level 88. And then you have Ascended Summoning, upgrades Summon Ifrit to Ifrit 2, Summon Titan to Titan 2, and Summon Garuda to Garuda 2 at level 90, thus completing the full circle of Summoner. This now brings us to the conclusion of this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that it got you some information. Hopefully, more than anything else, got you as excited as I am for Endwalker. It's not that much longer to wait, and if you've been waiting like me for, I hesitate using the word proper summoner, but it really feels like it's a proper version of what summoner should be in Final Fantasy XIV. That honestly, it plays great, it feels great, and I couldn't be more excited. And it was really a hard challenge to step away from summoner and play the other job. So my name is Brian. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you have a great day, and I hope to see you in my next video. But until then, take care.